Hey guys, Nicole here with When Geeks Craft, and today we're going to be making the box art from the original Super Mario game. I made this as a birthday gift for Wes over at Geeksmithing because if you can't tell from this clip, he's kinda a huge fan of Mario. His birthday was well over a month ago, so yeah, this video is quite a bit late, because we're still living in box hell. I started by laser cutting out a back panel and a frame. Like with most of my projects, I used 5mm Chicago screws and super glue to hold all the layers together. I used the screws as alignment pins and filled the seams with super glue. This area will hold all the resin. Accelerant speeds up the drying process because then it was resin time. Using a calculator off of Alumilite's website, I took measurements of my piece and figured out exactly how much resin would be needed. I was going to be using resin to recreate the black background that the box art has, so I started by grabbing some black pigment powders. I also added some iridescent blue powder to give it that extra shine. Before pouring the resin, I leveled my piece because this was made in my temporary apartment craft room, and I did not trust that anything in that apartment was level. You should always check that your workspace is level because disasters can happen at any point. Once everything looked good, I poured the resin, swirled it around, and hit it with the heat gun to pop all the bubbles. All the box art was meticulously edited to be made from layered vinyl. To make it look like this, I needed to edit it down to look like this. Then I went on prepping the Cricut mats for cutting. Knowing how large each piece would need to be, I was able to put all the colors down quickly. The cutting process took about 15 minutes per mat, and all the colors fit within 2 mats. Now for the fun part, weeding all that vinyl. Usually, this part is weirdly pretty enjoyable, but I have actually never changed the blade on my Cricut in the 2 years that I've had it, and it was finally apparent. Things did not weed like they're supposed to, and I got a bit frustrated. Luckily, I had another blade on hand, so I was able to just change it and recut some of those pieces. And the new blade worked great. Finally, it was time to layer everything. I laser cut out one of the acrylic panels with a scored outline to use as a guide. Alignment can be tricky, and this really helped. I removed the mask from the scored area and started the insanely tedious process of layering the vinyl. I have the files available on Patreon, but they're not currently labeled in any order of which to place the vinyl down. Someone please remind me in the comments to fix that after I unpack the craft room. Layers went on for the most part from largest to smallest. I was following along with my laptop by my side, double checking that my pieces were going down in the right order. Again, this process is insanely difficult to do, and it requires a lot of patience that was very much edited out of this video because it's very boring.
It's boring, but it's part of my life.
Each piece took a few attempts to lay down correctly. If you choose to make this, definitely take your time. I've seen some vinyl hacks online that have you line up multiple layered vinyl pieces with wax paper. I attempted to do this, but I only had parchment paper on hand, and that apparently is very different than wax paper, and it wrecked my vinyl. I'll leave a link to the description of a video I think would be helpful to those Patreon members that do want to attempt to recreate this. I made the Action Series graphic out of engraved veneer wood because it was way too small to make it out of vinyl. If I were to do this again though, I would have just engraved it into the acrylic. The thickness of the veneer in one corner of the piece makes it a little hard to screw the pieces together evenly in the end. Now that the first acrylic panel was done, it was time to start working on the second acrylic panel. I started by removing all the mask to reveal the layers underneath. This panel is going to be where the veneer border and the game title are attached, as well as where the Nintendo seal of approval was engraved. The reason I decided to do multiple acrylic panels was because it helped keep the layered vinyl sandwich together. Now the last project I did on this desk involved static grass, so I was constantly cleaning this piece to remove tiny pieces of leftover grass. For some reason, this stuff was everywhere. After the logo was attached, I moved on to the border. And before there are any comments about how great Gorilla Tape is at removing masking tape from engraved pieces, let me show you how that isn't always the case, and how scraping is sometimes easier. I seem to never have luck with Gorilla Tape removing my masks, so I oftentimes end up just scraping it away. I scrape the tape off of one piece before getting too excited and just wanting to place all the pieces down. The veneer is adhesive backed, so I just pulled off the protective film and stuck the pieces in place. After they were put into place, I attached the Chicago screws and began removing the remainder of the masking tape from the veneer border. I realized after attaching all of the pieces together that I forgot to paint the MDF frame black. Since there are two pieces of acrylic, the MDF frame is pretty visible from underneath, so I went back and painted it with black 3.0 before closing it up one last time. Then it was done. I added our logo stamp to the back, which funny enough Wes gave to us as a gift, and then wrapped it all up. Time for the final shots. Huge shout out to our Patreon supporters, especially those superfans. You guys are a huge support to us and we appreciate all of you so much. If you want access to all of our files as well as behind the scenes looks at our new craft studio, that's all available over on Patreon. Link is in the description below. See you guys all next time.